Hi everyone, it's Celeste and welcome to my channel. My channel is all about cosplay! I teach you tutorials on how to make the outfit, how to do the makeup, so you can become the character of your dreams. Today I'm teaching you how to make a basic rectangle skirt. This will come in handy for multiple characters or just for simple sewing sakes. I'm saying simple sewing sake because it is summertime and right now when I'm editing this video it's still summer, so this way if you find a fabric that you see while fabric hunting, I think you should get it and then maybe you can make a cute little skirt like I have here. I use the entire amount of fabric that is possible into the skirt that I am wearing now. The leftover remnants is only this strip and it's kind of amazing. I wanted to use this little piece for like a headband, but I think it's just too thin. So I will be recycling this into another piece of material. The amount of fabric that I used was 1 meter, which is like 1 yard and some odd number of inches. But I just have to say this is a very quick tutorial and great for summer sewing. So if you're not going to a convention anytime soon, maybe you should try making this skirt. If you made a project like this before, please send me a picture and tag me on social media down below. Also, I'm very big into lolita styles and I want to do something more like a comfy lolita. I know that it kind of goes against it, how I am dressed now, but at the same time, I think it's really fun if you can do casual lolita without following all the guidelines. Make sure to subscribe to my channel to become a sewing pin and my giant sewing cushion called YouTube. I hope you guys enjoy this tutorial and I'll see you at the end. So I think when I get to like 2,000 subscribers, I'm going to actually try to make a pin cushion with 2,000 pins. Please help me out and subscribe and watch my videos. Alright, let's go ahead and get into this simple tutorial. First, we need our fabric. Wait, let's try that again. Here is our fabric nicely laid out. It is the beautiful macaroon print that I got from Vichy, France. What I'm going to do first is make sure that all of the fabric is nice and even and that way it lines up. I don't want to waste any of it, so I'm making sure that the edges are pinned together. After lining both of the selvage edges together, I'm going to be cutting that off 4 inches from the edge. The reason why I'm using the selvage edge for my waistband is because I'm going to be folding it over twice and it's going to hide that edge. Now I'm going to flip it back inside out. I should have just done this in the beginning and then cut it off, but I didn't. Learn from my mistakes. Now I'm going to make sure that the top edge of the fabric is all symmetrical and I'm going to pin it together. This is going to be the top hem. Now I'm going to fold it over and I'm going to do this a few times so I make sure that the entire fabric is lined up. Here you can see that all the edges are lined up at the bottom and they're really uneven. So what we're going to do is cut a straight line across the bottom where all the edges will be the same. This will become our bottom hem. Take your time with this and make sure you go slow so you don't cause any bunching and that way you know it's a straight line. My waistband is cut from the selvage edges, so it's not connected from the fold. So first we want to sew it together first. You'll understand a bit better in a moment. Since it's not a one continuous strip, we made it that way, and there it is sewn together. Now we're going to unfold it and then fold it over lengthways. This way, it's going to hide the seam. Now what we're going to do is make sure that everything's on the fold. You can iron this down if you want, but I'm pretty confident in my ability to make sure that it's straight. And now we're going to baste it down. Now we are going to do the hem of the skirt by folding over the hem. What I like to do is move my needle to the left and sew a basting stitch to help me fold it over. This is like an inset measuring tool, so I know the exact hem fold line. After creating that basting stitch, I'm going to fold it over once at that line, and then I'm going to fold it over again, creating a fold over hem. This is going to create a very nice edge and it's going to be completely symmetrical. Now I just sew it down one more time. Note, make sure to iron your garments. This just helps me do it really quickly and fast so I don't have to iron, but having an iron actually really makes it clean and professional. Now I'm going to go ahead and take my waist measurement at the smallest part of my body. So for me, that's going to be about 26 inches. With seam allowance, I'm going to make it 27. Before I forget, make sure to serge any of the sides of your skirt. This way the fabric does not fray. You can see that there's a little bit of hairs already coming undone, and I don't want that to happen. I wanted to stress the importance of a sewing foot. This is my serger foot. It's extremely different from the base foot. It has two metal prongs in the middle and this brush on the right side. This helps hold the stitches in place at the edge of the fabric. This works well with a lot of different serging stitches. This is a standard zipper foot. I use this for adding my zippers after I baste them in. You can use this on the left or the right side, whichever is your preference. I usually like using the left side, so that's what I use. Here is the standard sewing foot that I use all the time. This one is just a regular metal foot that holds the fabric down and has a hole obviously for the needle. Nothing special about this one. This one comes standard with all sewing machines. Now we will be adding a zipper. I decided to use this mocha color to match the macaroons. The length of the zipper is totally up to you. Mine is about 8 inches. Line up your zipper on the right sides together and make sure it sits at the top of the fabric. I'm going to make sure that my fabric has a little bit of a lip because I want to add the waistband. That's why it's really important to pay attention to where your little metal piece is. Using the zipper foot, go ahead and sew as close as possible to the little zipper edge without sewing the zipper edge. Sometimes I like sewing it down using the regular foot and then going back over it with the... Honestly, it takes a little bit more time to do that, but if you just get used to using a zipper foot, that's what's going to be the best for you. Once you have added the zipper and it sits nicely at the top hem, let's figure out the bottom hem by making sure that it still lines up, making sure that the bottom hem is the same, and then we are going to sew that all the way up to the zipper. The reason why we want to do it in the reverse is because if you sew it wonky, the bottom hem will become crooked. Now I'm getting out a needle and thread. Obviously I can do this with the sewing machine, but I feel like I have better control using a needle and thread. From one edge of the skirt zipper, go ahead and begin a nice little knot and then start sewing in and out all throughout the top line of fabric. This thread is as long as my waist with like 2 extra inches, so it's about 28 inches long. So I know that this will fit my waist properly if I have a little bit of extra thread to cut off and that the waist is completely gathered. I can also make sure that it's uniformly even. This way there's not one side that's too bunched than the other. This is what it looks like while it's fully gathered and it's cinched a little bit to my waist size. It's a little bit bigger just because of seam allowance and I'm going to have to add the waistband. Because the waistband is already made with the basting stitch, we just sew it wrong sides together and then make sure that the gathers stay in place while sewing. Be careful and just readjust if necessary. This is what it should look like, and because I use the waistband like this, I'm going to fold it over and treat it like a bias tape. This way it's going to fully encompass the last seams that we did and we don't really have to take out the basting stitch. Then all we have to do is top stitch it down. So fold over the waistband on top of itself to create a super thick waistband and then sew it down. Be careful and make sure everything is even. If you want, go ahead and iron it first, but I don't do that. Honestly, I should be ironing, but this is just a quick tutorial in showing you how to make a simple little skirt from a rectangle piece of fabric and trying to salvage all of it. Anyways, continue sewing a straight line down the way. So because I have this little bit of excess left over, what I'm going to do is do a giant zigzag stitch back and forth on it, a little pieces over. And then the other side, I'm going to cut it down completely so that it does not expose any of it. Originally, I was going to make it just into a cute little ribbon to tie at the waist, but we are going to use something else. I used a lot of stitches here, and now I'm just going to cut that completely off. The reason being is we want this to have a nice hook and eye closure or hook and bar closure. This is going to make a really nice finishing statement, and it's going to hold it in place without fraying. Like I said, the other side needs to be a little bit longer so it can overlap, and then we're going to cut the rest of it off. Once it's zippered and fully put together, you can totally see that the waistband is symmetrical, and now we just have to add the closure right there. Originally, I was thinking of using a button closure, but I decided to use a bar hook closure. The little bar is going to go on the smallest side, and the hook closure is going to go on the big side. What you want to do is hold your little bar in place and then begin sewing it in one eye at a time. You don't want to do both eyes at once. That gets the string really complicated, and you want it to be very strong in those two pieces. You can use a zigzag stitch at a 0 moving setting to sew it in place, but I personally like doing it by hand. Now that the bar is done, make sure you sew the hook on the opposite side, not the same, as the bar, and then sew in each eyelet individually. This is really important because if you sew it on the same side as the bar, you won't have it slide into place, which is obviously not what we want to do. Because I want to use as much fabric as possible, I want to use the remaining fabric from the waistband. I'm going to turn this into a detachable bow for the zipper using a bit of the scraps from the bottom hem we cut off in the beginning. So what we're going to do, we're going to sew the edges together to make a pocket. I just want you to know I'm cutting the inside edges because I want to make sure that the bow flops and flips nice appropriately, and then flip it inside out. Repeat this on the other piece of scrap material and then sew it together in the middle. I'm going to use the bottom hem cut off to cover the bow's middle piece. Hem it and then sew it into place on the bow. While I was sewing that into place, I used some snap closures to make sure it goes onto the waistband. Simple tutorial or what? Do you think you can follow it? I hope you can. It's really easy. I used up as much material as possible, and the salvage edges kind of like are in my skirt. But the good part is that this is all that is left over. And this is just enough to probably make a headband if I really try hard enough. But I'm just really proud of how my skirt came out, and this is the remnants. I will be doing more series on scrap pieces of fabric and what you can do with that in the future. There's plenty of ideas on YouTube. I want to see what I can create and share it with you guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you find some of my other videos entertaining and inspiring. With that being said, make sure to become a member of my pincushion by clicking the subscribe button. And stay inspired, be creative, and I will see you in a future video. Bye!